introduction why we think that open source banking is needed and feasible, and then Philip will take over and present some ideas on protocols and technical issues. The first thing I want to emphasize is that open source banking is a good attack point to hack into society, to transfer the open source grassroots paradigm to a wider area of the tertiary sector. This is especially apparent because there are several things which are common in both banking and financing and programming from a cultural sense. As you can see, there are useful analogies between banking and programming. Such as the first one is it affects people's daily life and they have to be conscious about these issues. It's different from, say, road construction or power usage. When I use somebody's road, I don't have to care about how it is constructed very much. When I use electrical energy, I usually am not the power plant who is responsible for providing this. But on the other hand, if I do have, if I am doing my banking transaction, I have to be quite conscious about what I'm doing. So it is one of the activities in daily life which really require everybody's attention. It's widely pervasive, and this is similar to programming or computer usage, which at least requires some minimal degree of attention too. The second parallel I want to point to is that we're dealing with webs of value. Banking originally came from webs of value among merchants who ship goods in ancient Greece or Chinese societies, and it was a mutual web of trust. In effect, if we're using programs, especially open source programs, this is also a kind of web of trust. We're not compiling everything ourselves, and we're not checking every source code, but if we know that the program has been written by somebody we've trusted, or we know it has been reviewed by people who we trust, we also transfer the same trust we have in banking to the trust in programming. Our data are as valuable as money is. The third thing I want to point out is that both programming and banking are very much based on human conventions. They are not influenced by natural laws. They are, unlike, say, a chemical process, which is tightly bound to the laws of thermodynamics. In banking and accounting, I'm just very much freer in realizing human conventions. For example, I did discount calculation rules for a commercial e-commerce application, and we had quite a lot of protocols which were all human conventions to transfer to that. So what banking and programming share here is that they are both rather remote from the laws of nature. And of course, they're all very scalable. Scalable, I mean, you can do it in small scale. You have all these little Linux accounting applications. You don't have to do it in large scale only. Say there's no shareware for a nuclear power plant because, okay, the scale is too large and you can't distribute it to the masses. But what we observe actually is that banking is a very proprietary area at the moment, and I want to emphasize this is by historical accident. It was only very recently, or rather recently, that public key cryptography was developed in the late 70s, and that it became well known to everybody in the early 90s with Phil Zimmerman, who promoted PGP. And so we do not have much banking standards who already implemented public key cryptography. Of course, you can say we've got DigiCash and we've got the new HBCI standards, but all this is rather new, and all this is not yet really open source. The open source paradigm has come even later, and so it's not yet included. So this is this lack of open source banking is a little bit unnatural, because the free software paradigm is strongest where security is involved. And what we would consider the most natural approach is to make all the source code public, maybe to make even the server world readable, and to let everybody hack it who wants to do so. We might point out that the technology is basically published and we only have to implement this. If we do this, now it would pay very much back to the community. One thing is that implementing an open source banking implementation will give us good object models. Davis talked about last night, talked about libraries we could use and develop low as well as high level APIs. The financial transactions could be shared back to the community. I mean, currently, if you do some electronic commerce and you use some, say, you even use some public domain web interface, say some Perl script or whatever, the ultimate benefit goes to a proprietary bank, which is using a proprietary database, and it won't show you everything. It won't give anything back to the community. So what we want to get everybody involved is developing a system, setting up a bank which can pay benefits back to the community. The alternatives are really disgusting if we look at, say, micropayments. We will have a lot of micropayments in an ideal world. Say you download some music, you like the music, you want to donate some $1 to the musician, and now assume you have to pay 20 cents to a bank which uses some obscure and proprietary software, and you don't know what happens with your data, and you feel you're not supporting the right financing system. So what we want to set up is an open source banking system consisting of mutual web of trust, which allows transactions to be done easily and to be done in a secure cryptographic manner. First example to use this would be to start a GPT script and pipe it through that. So the paradigm I want to point here is we're just collecting efforts to set up a banking application. And I think now is the right time frame to do this. I think now is there is a certain need to do this, as I see from the wide audience who has come here. Before we start with the discussion, I'd like to turn over to Philip, who will give us some protocol implementations.
Okay, so we had the idea to make an open source bank and thought about the concept. The first idea we had to look at the normal banks. What are they doing? Here we have the bank. There are a lot of customers, and when one customer wants to make a transaction with another customer, the whole thing works with the bank. So what we need is a central server or a distributed server or whatever. Yes, that was the idea. Then we talked to several bank specialists, and they said there are several problems. We need a lot of server capacity. Perhaps if we have about 10,000 users, then it will be a big amount of capacity we will need. We will need the people who administer the servers. And the problem is that we have to be a bank for the to issue the money, and the problem is that it costs a lot of money to set up a bank, and that's not what we want to do. So we thought about another concept. So let's say we have those 6 customers of Nerdbank, and what they want to do is to make transactions. So let's say this customer wants to make a transaction to this customer. Let's say he transfers 10 Nerdbucks. So what he does is he set up an email or something like that, signs it with his keys, and sends it to the other customer who should get the 10 Nerdbucks.
Nerdbucks being a virtual currency, which is exchanged among the customers.
Yes. Better. Oh, stop. Okay. So this customer gets the signed email or whatever, and then he has to decide whether he trusts this email or not. So what we need is a web of trust between those 2 customers, or the other thing we need is a certification authority which signs his case so that he can trust the certification authority and can trust him. Yes, so let's say we make several transactions. Let's say this user transfers 20 Nerdbucks over here, and for example, this user transfers 30 Nerdbucks. Okay? What we have here is, let's call it circle. The thing is that the transactions we made are Schuldscheine and Wechsel in German. So the user says, I have no physical possibility to give you the money now, but I guarantee you that as soon as we can exchange the money, we will do it. That's what the transaction is. And what we have here is that those 3 customers, that everyone has has given away the has send the nerdbugs. And what we can do here is to optimize the thing. The minimum of the circle is 10 nerdbugs, the minimum of the amount. So what we can tell each of them is just to lower the transaction by 10 bucks. So what we have here is 0, 10, and 20. And this transaction falls away. How can we achieve this? This is done by setting the Nerdbank in the middle of the whole system and informing the Nerdbank whenever a transaction happens. So the Nerdbank collects the information about the transactions and searches for routes to optimize. So the positive thing of this concept is that the users can exchange money, can exchange this virtual money without the need of a central authority. They only need to trust each other via a web of trust or a certification authority. The only thing the Nerdbank does is to optimize those transactions afterwards, as soon as this is possible. Yes, but there is one problem with this concept. The problem is that the customer does not trust the other customer enough, and perhaps he thinks that he doesn't get the money. So what can he do? With the previous model of the normal bank, there is a bank which guarantees the transactions. So when the other customer doesn't want to pay, the bank handles the whole thing and the customer gets his money. How can we achieve this security in this system? That's possible by making normal banks our users. So the bank is an equal node in the system, and if the customer doesn't trust this customer enough, then he can go to the bank and get the money from them, get it paid directly or whatever, and the bank does the rest with the sender of the money. So and for this service of the bank, the customer has to pay the Spesen. Yeah.
Has to pay fees. Has to pay transaction fees.
Yeah, the transaction fees. So it's possible with this method to install a worldwide network of customers who can easily make transactions without costs, and without the special bank transaction costs. And if one of the customers wants the guarantee to get the money now, then he can pay a bit. Then he can pay the transaction and have the guarantee for it. So it's possible if for the people who do not need that guarantee and believe that the system works correct and so on, that they have transaction for zero costs and have a good possibility to transact money via the internet. Okay.
So what we should emphasize here is the idea that all the software on the server is open source and it's free software, so you can download it, and if you don't like the scheme, you just set up your own. You can clone it, you can set up your own bank, so this will guarantee that the whole thing won't get very awry. And we do not think this is terribly difficult, because we will just set up a server which with a database and XML interface and parse some XML data via GPG as a first step, and then we will do some cryptographic implementations we'd like to invite you to. The first thing is, of course, just doing by bash and PostScript. Yeah?
I have one serious problem with this concept, namely that I wouldn't use it as long as there's a central point in the middle that collects all my transaction data.
The thing is that you can choose by yourself whether you whether you give out the information about the transaction or not. But the problem is that it will be rather impossible to optimize the transactions if you do not give out this information. But you will have to, you will have the possibility to say no.
What do you need the optimization for? What are you gaining by optimizing the transaction? Does it make it faster?
No, it's making the thing easier. One of the problems we had is that when we want to transfer money from one country to another, that the banks want a lot of money for it. And what we can do here is to optimize the transactions so that those transfers from one country to another aren't needed any longer.
In the same way, it is possible to collect certain batches of transactions with subnodes who collect more data and who might interchange among these subnodes. So it is a possibility to get some hierarchies in there.
So what do you think would be needed to achieve this? If we say, just state for a moment that the CA is there, like let's say that the PGP web of trust out there is there and it works and everybody is in there, and if I do write you an email saying that I like your piece of software there you wrote and I like to use it, and I tell you I owe you like $10, $30, whatever.
Okay.
How would you be able to judge that I can pay money, that any bank out there will give you money on my word?
Yeah, that's another thing we have to do is to set up another network rather similar to the normal certification authorities, which includes the information of how much money the people are, how much money the people.
How much money I am good for?
Yes,
How much
exactly.
credit I have?
Yes.
But if I can send emails to everybody out there stating them that I owe them $10, and these transactions do not go to a central point,
Yes.
nobody knows how many messages I have sent out. So if I have sent out 1 million messages stating that I owe somebody $10, and everybody thinks, well, $10 isn't much money, I can trust this guy.
Yes, but the same problem. It's the same problem with normal banks. If you go to 10 banks and they all investigate you and find that you are perhaps 10,000 D-marks worth, then they all will give you the same money, and at the end it's the same, I think.
There's central authority in Germany.
Yeah, that's called Schufa. Have you heard about that?
Mm.
They keep track of how many credit cards you have, how many bank accounts you have, how many, well, what you're good for. Right?
Credit.
Mm.
Every credit is tracked.
But they're not doing this internationally.
Not yet.
Not yet, that's true.
Well, maybe it's not a technical discussion because
Yeah.
we're on 0 lines of code as far as I can see.
The problem is that you want someone that is able to accept a calculated risk.
Well, there's always a calculated risk. That's what you have insurance
Who's
for.
going to accept it?
Well,
The end user?
eventually the Nerdbank in the middle is going to be a real bank. There's no way around this as far as I can judge from the legal situation, at least here in Germany.
Who's owning the Nerdbank?
That's a good question.
Who's owning the risk?
Well, the software the Nerdbank is running is GPL. And as far as I can judge the German law, if you want to run this, if you actually want to issue the money, so you have to be a bank, and then you're within the regular system. All the legal setups there for regular banks. It's just a different software running this.
So basically, what you're proposing is someone who can start a bank now under German law.
Yeah.
Has to adopt this idea and use it.
Well, you can. That's the ultimate goal. I mean, I'm not with the group. I just borrowed them the laptop, and I've been talking with them for quite some time. So those are my ideas to this, and as far as I can tell, this is a workshop. So everybody's invited to give their opinion about this, and you don't really need a bank. Basically, you need a gateway into the banking system. That's the way I see it. If that is a bank on its own, excellent. But
By German law, you need something that is able to be a bank.
no, by German law,
There's
you
no-
only need a gateway into the real. As long as you're not the bank, as long as you're just telling the banks the way they understand it, we're doing transactions here, you might get around it. But I'm not a lawyer, so.
How is this better than using your credit card? I mean, I don't see any advantages over using my credit card. My credit card,
Where you from?
Gateway to the bank. I automatically pay my credit card company, which takes money from my bank.
Where you from?
America.
Okay, so transaction cost here is too high to do this in micropayment.
So you're looking at a way for bypassing having to get the bank money to the transaction.
Well, basically that's the point. Why do you need a bank? Right now the banks give you trust. Now if crypto can give you trust, what's the bank good for?
Well, getting money. You're saying that regardless of all this, you're going to have a central authority that's going to be able to issue money based on your net bucks to regular dollars or euros. Or
The way I see it, only if you ever say I want this actually paid out in
Well, if
real
you're a
cash.
merchant, say I make music, I'm selling CDs.
Yeah,
Everybody pays me with net bucks. At some point, I'm going to want to go buy groceries.
exactly. So unless the grocer takes netbucks, you have to convert it to US dollars. And that's where the interesting part starts. Like, you can either be a bank.
It sounds redundant. I mean, the structure's already set up. I mean, granted, in Europe, credit card costs are very high, but
There are lots of different answers, but they're answers, not solutions. As far as
But who, in this model, who is basically taking the risks?
good question. How can you discuss this on a non-existent protocol?
Basically about a web of trust. Basically, a web of trust is a web of risk.
Yes.
So, the only way I think that you can really pull this one up is by allowing all, or actually requiring all the participants to take part in the risks as well. I mean, what's the worth of their trust without
Well, exactly. What's
their participation in the risk?
Well, you can sell the risk to a Nerdbank, basically someone that has insurance like a regular bank.
Why don't you share the risk?
So on what basis?
every customer gets the same share according to transaction volume?
On the
or-
basis of a limited risk. Like if I know that somebody rated this guy worth $1,000, and somebody makes sure that he's never able to spend more than $1,000 to other people at the same time, there's only a limited risk that this person is not worth $1,000. And if he had given 10 people $100, these 10 people will each lose $100. But the system, the people, everybody will not lose more than $1,000.
Well,
That would be something that I think could work. But you need a central system there, and not something that you can move messages around, because you need somebody to track how many money or how many debt somebody is.
you need central information, not a central system.
How many?
You need central information, not a central system. So.
Well, I mean, unless you can set up a system where each user has their own database, it's impossible for that person to afford to pay up more money in that database than they can hand out.
Well, the problem is, do you trust the database?
Do you have looked at other solutions to this problem? The thing that comes to my mind, or probably was on my mind before I came here already, is the cypherpunk solution, Magic Money.
Tell me about it.
Magic Money. Anyone know Magic Money? It's basically a fully distributed system with a clearinghouse, very much like the stock exchange. So it's a cash-based system, cyber cash, and the trick is double-blinded. So you have fully anonymous, untraceable transactions, and through the double-blinding, you ensure that you cannot spend the same money twice.
It's like
So-
they jump stuff.
yeah,
Well,
it's John, yeah.
double-
That's the problem with it. It's patent.
Yeah.
Can't use it. But patent runs out in about, I don't know, 2 years or so. But the basic idea is that you don't need a central authority that collects information. It just tells the user, yes, this is a valid coin and it hasn't been spent yet. And then you do transfers directly to the other side. You send him an email with your coins encrypted and blinded, of course. But the bank never knows who sent this coin to where. It just knows whether this coin is okay or not.
Well, it depends on when the patent runs out. I mean, it's basically the same as eCash. So, but as long as you have a patent on it, you need to look for other objects. And as I see it, I would rather than actually talk about a specific protocol, see it more as a chance to model the transactions, and then have somebody implement some protocol. As long as you can agree on it, you're going to use it.
The problem here with Magic Money is the implementation. You can't use the John stuff. But I think the basic idea is something that's very worth copying because it's anonymous. And anonymity is something very, very important when it comes to money. And it's untraceable, which also guarantees you anonymity. Like your bank does not know that you spent half your income on whatever.
So is this feature, do you not think this feature is covered by the patent actually?
Yeah.
I suggest having a look at it. It's somewhere on the Cypherpunk FTP service. An implementation is available. The problem is just that you can only use it for study because of the job stuff. But it could be used as a starting point to implement something like it, not using double-blind paper restrictions.
What's the URL?
The patent stuff might be, I don't know, we've got to search for Magic Money and some FTP server.
You got any
You
URL?
don't have to do it now, the documentation is pretty crappy.
Okay.
But the main point is that the advantage of a real bank in cyberspace Yeah, okay, but not the personalized version of you're buying a play.
Well, yeah, they're not gonna, yeah, when you take the money out of the bank, you don't know what you're gonna do with it.
Yeah, right. Yeah, if you do the cash, you can pay with a credit card.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But you actually come up with a system like this where every transaction is going through a central authority, like your credit card or the net bucks. Somebody's gonna be able to track what you did. Yeah, right.
Well,
I think cash is really important because the main advantage of cash is that it's untraceable. I mean, I have $100 bill in my pocket, but I don't know who had it before me. Well, the guy who gave it to me. I don't know the way it went, or where it came from, or what was bought with it. And nobody has any chance to find out. It's just technically impossible. And that's really important to cyberspace.
well, what about the wallet? I mean, having a protocol you can use to do a transaction is one thing. Actually getting people to use it, best example, Geldkarte. I mean, what's the percentage of people actually using it? How many people in here have a Geldkarte?
What?
A Geldkarte. The German, do you have an EC card? EC card?
About 5 cards.
Yeah, and they have this little chip on top of it?
Yeah.
You don't even know you have this. That's not part of
Only
the
got
EC.
3 of those.
Yeah, it's not part of the EC system. That's just completely
It's a
independent
debit
system.
card.
So, yeah, I mean, if that happens to us, we don't even have to start. I mean, we need something where you can do a transaction for someone that's not in the system.
Well, if you're worried about your privacy, you just have to open 3 bank accounts with old banks, with heritage systems. They don't know shit about their customers. They don't know how to deal with that. They're just too big and too COBOL programs to ever figure it out who the hell they are working for.
Yeah, but I
They don't have the concept of a customer. They have the concept of an account as the basis of their operation. This means that they don't know what you are doing. They have no way of tracing.
But that time,
That's so very convenient.
That time's running out. I've seen COBOL servers running out COBOL data tracks right out of the host and pushing it into that application service. Like really big projects.
It doesn't matter.
Well,
It's only 2 years.
it's 2 years maximum.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have to connect everything to the anonymized system. The data into some.
The main problem we face with the whole monetary system is that we're losing what anonymity we have at the moment. Like you brought up the Geldkarte.
Yeah.
For example, it's totally fucking stupid. It's just a way to convert untraceable cash into perfectly traceable electronic cash.
For
And
example,
it's good for nothing. You have to go to an ATM to load the card. You could just as well go to an ATM and get cash. The only advantage you have is like carrying 20 grams less of bills. And I think the main idea behind this thing is tracing the customer. Like the euro. Anyone thought of why they're introducing the euro now, but cash is due like in 2002, 2004? Why are they starting a currency that doesn't have one bill printed yet? Well, you can go to the, in theory, you can go to the shop and buy a euro today. Of course, nobody does. Of course, nobody has one bill.
have you ever thought about how many trucks it's going to take to replace every single coin just in this country?
Yeah.
Have you ever just thought about how much weight that is? How many trucks that is?
Yeah, I know that. Well, it's not too long ago that you actually put money on and weighted it to find out how much it is.
Yeah. I mean,
well, the thing is that they still started the euro thing now, and I do think we have enough
I
pressure.
don't understand what you mean by your rhetorical question.
I mean that there are interests in the banking industry to remove anonymity from money because information is saleable. An address is worth about 5 marks.
Yeah.
And
they are not trusting technology. Even if there were some people out and telling them that this is totally secure, they won't trust them without a shadow thing, shadow bank account and stuff like that. It's not about getting the data, that's nice. Getting the data about your customers is nice, but they're basically just not trusting the system, right? The technology. And it's not the first thing. It's not the
May or June, it came out into the Netherlands. People going abroad use the EC cards and will not ask for the personal PIN codes. So they just are asked to put a signature on a piece of paper and the payment was done. And there was a great trust because that was not secure, and then the director of the central bank said, oh, but the signature is perfectly secure. So they don't trust it. Or they think people don't need to fix the technology.
I didn't get enough of it because of the noise.
There was trust that people going abroad did a transaction with the Dutch EC card, right? And the shopkeeper did not ask for the PIN code, but just
for a signature.
For a signature.
Yeah,
and the central bank director said that's enough.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah. But I think that a signature is not that secure.
They are doing that in Germany too. There are basically two possibilities to buy things in Germany with an EC card. First thing is you type in your PIN and the card. The second thing is you give them the card and you do a signature.
Right? So that was not the way it was done in Holland. In Holland, if you use only the card, you must type the PIN. Otherwise, you must use the check. Yeah. And people going abroad, they use having to type the PIN or to use a check.
Actually, it's cheaper for them to use the signature, because what the signature says is that in case I can't get the money from the bank, the money must reveal your address. That's the signature you're giving. Right. It's a complete web of trust there. It's like the bank issued you this EC card, and I can read your bank information out of the EC card. And so the EC card is guaranteed some money, and good chances are you're still within that limit.
Oh, it is just not system like the checks.
No, it's not checks. Basically, I don't know the English word. It's Lastschrift. And
the point is with the check.
Yeah, the check.
There's a guarantee that this check is worth 400 marks, right? If you give your EC card and the PIN, the transaction is guaranteed. Yeah. The very simple.
It's an online transaction.
It's an online transaction. With the signature, it's not. It's not guaranteed. It's not online, of course.
The biggest problem is that you can refuse the transaction 6 weeks afterwards.
Yeah.
So and that cost the person that asked for the money will be charged. It's completely free for you to say 6 weeks afterwards, nah, I don't want you to have that money.
But people don't try to do that.
Well, my argument is I don't have the perfect protocol. I know it's there, but as long as the patron's on it.
No, but the problem was that actually there are three protocols now. One is with the check, one is with the PIN, and one is with the signature.
Yeah.
And people will use only the first two, which will make them more secure in this sense. Now people started to get confronted with the third method. They were upset about it.
It's actually, as far as I can see, for the consumer, it's the most secure thing. His name stays. The only thing you give out is your name and your bank number. They withdraw it, and if they make a mistake, all you say is, even if they don't make a mistake, you just say no. 6 weeks afterwards, you can be on vacation. So, for me, that's at least for the consumer, it's the most secure system. But the wallet is more interesting. I mean, the protocols are nice. The protocol for just about everything you can think of. Very specific things. we need the interaction. We need to say, take this API, let it agree on some protocol, both ends speak. I mean, just the transaction within the country is going to be a challenge. I don't know. If I want to send you money, trust me, it's going to be a while. And the other thing is this directly goes into middleware systems. Basically, are you aware of the internet banking middleware situation in Germany? It's basically we have another Microsoft here in Germany. Workart has 90% market share, and believe me, I've worked on their system for 2 years. I don't want to do that again. And they're in the Kony magazine.
What is that?
Workart. Workart. It's a startup company.
Workart?
Yeah, they have 90% market share on the German internet banking.
They're like a client software.
The client software. Basically, they're saying we're not going for profit, we're going for market share because this is the most important thing. Anybody can write an application, just like we're borrowing a bank here. Anybody can do that. Okay. So, but the market share is the important thing. It's like the application is not used. No, basically, what they're saying is, if you need the information to run the application, actually, the application only processes information. The information is carried through a middleware. We have 90% market share on the middleware. It's like Microsoft has the desktop, but they got the pool of transactions that are served to this desktop. And so the open source middleware is right next to it, and the API to the user is a wallet. That's how a normal person thinks of when he thinks of money. He thinks of his wallet. There's cash in there, there's a credit card in there, there's an EC card in there, stuff like that. And basically what we need is this infrastructure. I can just come up with a protocol, put it into a virtual card, and plug it into your wallet. And if it's possible, it should communicate with a real wallet. There must be a gateway somewhere in between there for me to put money directly in your real wallet. And so yeah, the protocol is an open question, but making those, you have to model it in transactions. Just get one transaction working and then implement it, find a way. For example, all German banks will be IP based by the end of the year. HPCI, crypto. So there's a perfect opportunity to build a gateway there and just sit on top of HPCI for a while till the patent runs out and you can actually put real cash in there. There's the SET protocol. There's plenty out there. Different solutions for different things.
So we are talking about a client server system here, like a wallet client and a server that is able to make transaction with that based on, let's say, HPCI, and it's all open source software.
That's a
So,
start.
and it's secure, and we have some cryptography that's also open source in there, and so we are fine. We have some client software, we have some server software.
Yeah.
We're still missing something, the bank, right? I mean, I think with this one, with these two possibilities, first possibility, found a bank, become a bank, and second thing is have a web of trust, like in rating people, like in rating this guy is worth $1,000. Do you think you can rate people that way on a trusty basis? Do you think you can do that?
You see
I
the
know
guys.
that could be a very hard thing to achieve, right?
But you don't need a web of trust. It should be a point where he gives me his $100. I don't care, if he's a whatever he does. As long as I have his $100, I know that $100 is valid. I don't care what he does or if he's trustworthy or what. It's not that he's trustworthy. It's that what he's giving me is trustworthy.
Right.
So there needs to be a key, some kind of unique identifier, something on that says that this is always going to be valid for X amount. And then in a system like that, if you have a bank,
Who's going to guarantee that the bank?
The issue of
So at a bank, basically
there's no products in GPL. So basically, just accidentally have a server run this.
How do you get people to use this money? I mean, there's the main problem in magic money was first the interface is all one, and the second is it's all there. You can use it, but what form?
Yeah.
What can I buy with my 5 million Nerdbucks that I just hacked on your server?
Well, you can. That's once again.
You can
That's
buy trust from other participants.
Yeah, I can send out many fast mails, 10 Nerdbucks attached. This is a serious question. What can I buy with the money? Because if there's nothing I can buy with the money, I'm not interested in it.
That's why I mentioned HPCI. The second you have HPCI, you can say, okay, look, me as the Nerdbank, I'm not actually giving you an account. What I'm giving you is the possibility for me to access all your accounts with this open source software. So look, I don't have secrets. I'm just your gateway. I'm just a server here.
Yeah, but getting the merchants to adopt this, so like buy books
No,
and CDs.
basically once the HPCI is the IP interface of any bank in Germany. So basically, as long as the merchant has a German bank account, and as long well we're in Germany, so the chances are very, very high, at least one. You just transfer money in there, and then you say, okay, the bank said I accepted this transfer. That's like putting in a check, and then all you have to come back is I managed to get this through the gateway, and the gateway secures this.
The whole motivation to start this system is because the current systems are just too expensive. Is this right? Is that the main motivation?
Reducing
The sports of it, but I heard the argument they're claiming 1/5 of my transactions. I don't watch my affairs. I mean, my question is, how do you think you will press the costs for your support?
Because everybody makes profit.
How come you will be so much cheaper considering all the products that come from here? I mean, the level of service that we're trying to figure out, do you think that's also...
Basically, there's always going to be a cost, and it's going to be driven down by technology. It's been that way. It's going to be the same way in the banking system. I've talked to people in the US, and they said we don't expect there to be anything except online banking within 2 years because it's just too expensive. The banks can't compete if they do not use online banking wherever they can, because basically online banking is only fixed cost. The transaction is taken care of by the net. You don't have to build your infrastructure. You can be a bank globally positioned without anything except a dial-up modem and some shitty piece of hardware. Well, anybody that
You know
talks to you.
Charles Schwab? You know Schwab?
Yeah.
Okay. They are now opening a chain of stores. Just being online.
Don't mess up Charles Schwab and eSchwab. Because Charles Schwab always had like personal interaction, shops, and people on the phone.
And they are now expanding that operation because they get an enormous amount of new customers through eSchwab, and the only way to further serve and probably exploit those customers is by giving them an IRL interface. The customers won't accept a totally digital interface to the Schwab operation.
That's-
Same with Deutsche Bank.
Of course, but what's the difference? I mean, if I walk into a bank, if I talk to my banker, now what does he take out when I say do this transaction for me? Does he take a piece of paper and put it on there and give it to the secretary and then have it piled down the hall, or do we just take out our 2 smart cards, put them together and say, nice trading with you? It's the internet is not about sitting at home and surfing.
So then you're only talking about efficiency. So
Efficiency is going to drive this one way or the other. Look at the Geldkarte. That's the other way. I mean, if anybody that gets this card into their hands can read my last 10 transactions and they're so anonymous. I mean, have you ever considered you're dealing with a vendor for a very long time, and just by accident you buy at some other vendor he doesn't like. The next time you pay there, you're like, look, what did you do at this guy's place? I mean, do I want that? But it's out there. The second people start using their Geldkarte, the war is lost against this, and then it's gonna be harder. So it's a race against other systems being there.
I think there's also,
You have too much confidence in technology.
but there's also a strong aesthetical argument because, yeah, because unlike the patented approach Magic Money took, this is really free to copy, and it should at least attract people, say, from the Linux cryptographers community. And if these people like it, then it could establish a pretty good reputation. And although other people are not so interested in the details, they know that the cryptographers like it, and so it could gradually spread among a greater audience.
But the bank could easily, I think, punch on the same line by stating things about their systems and their privacy and their customers' privacy. Or if I would be a bank and I feel that there's some threat from the open source community, whatever, I could go and ask Bruce Schneier to review all my systems and bring in somebody else like Amazon comes out with or whatever, and let them state that I don't mess with customers' privacy. I would have basically the same goal. I could invite Linus and have a look at my IMS, MBS-based IBM posts, whatever, and I would be there, right? I mean that's the same effect. It's a are we talking about privacy issue here?
Definitely.
All right.
I mean,
so that's not about open source, really. It's about trust in things. If you trust in open source,
well,
fine.
open source is a prerequisite for trust, at least in cryptography. So I don't really want to use MS Money on Windows 2000 to talk to an HPCI server that's written and running under Windows NT. It's really nice that the final point in the chain is an IDM host. Yeah, right. But look what's in between. So.
But I think the source and line issue is, while you're right, that anything dealing with money should be reviewable, should be free software. I think that's only a very small part of the problem. Just to bring up another point, where is the money actually stored? At time X, where is my $3, and what happens if that server crashes?
Massive distribution. Massive distribution.
So if the money is on my own machine, and if someone breaks in and works with my house and takes my machine, my money is, my bank account is gone as well.
The way I see it,
Don't think so.
crypted and broadcasted on every single network you can get on, and have basically, I'm broadcasting my crypted packets I want to get back in case my hard drive crashes, and that's it. For you doing the favor and storing it for me, I'm storing some of your broadcasts.
First you have to design a service around that, because don't expect normal people to do that kind of stuff.
No, that's going to be completely transparent.
Right. And everything that's stored there is then
Distributed to China.
and photos and then posted on sites, whatever. And somebody will keep it, so I'll always be able to retrieve
Well,
my information.
Depends on the information. You can always have a service provider that will guarantee you some like 2 megabytes of secure space, web space.
They will go bust,
Yeah, they want to go back to cover the risk.
I don't think so.
I think so. If I were to set up such a service, like I provide you 10 gigs of safe storage, I want some money because it costs a lot of money to set up this system
It's the
with
perfect.
redundant backups and what else you have.
Well, it's the perfect job for your ISP. Direct connection, no other computer in between, and he gets a monthly charge.
There were actually some banks in Germany talking about becoming ISPs because, well, we can store all these data of our customers in these big, halls we had for the money.
I worked for about 4 years now for a bank that is an ISP. They're not talking about it, they just did it.
I know a bank that is an ISP.
Yeah,
You can use it from
they're
anywhere.
losing enormous amounts of money on being an ISP, but they are still an ISP.
Well,
They had a good idea, I think. Rabobank, it's a Dutch Raiffeisen bank.
Basically,
They have like 8
question of risk.
million accounts and they are an ISP. They have more bank shops than Deutsche Bank. And every bank shop is selling internet accounts.
well,
On the road system.
you know what Deutsche Bank just put in? 155 Mbit line with a 34 backup. They didn't need the speed, they needed the megabytes. It was cheaper for them to have a 155 Mbit line than 2 Mbit lines at maximum traffic. Because the traffic is cheaper on the faster line. And they started out with 4 Mbit, and within 2 years they went up to 155 Mbit plus the 34 backup they dynamically routing.
But then what are they doing with that?
So hosting their internet services. I mean,
Bankfield Johnson.
Bankfield monthly services Deutsche Bank, HBCE. There's zillions of IP-based interfaces to banks now.
Yeah.
I've worked there, and you see protocols you never heard of before and afterwards, but there are actually like 100 customers out there using it. It's like the effort to support them is just like the internet banking for zillion people, and it's like the top 100 people, top 100 customers have their own protocol.
Yes, online banking for private banking.
Yeah. So there's plenty going on, and if you can hook into those new middle layers, then that's a good start. But I'm not. I'm more talking my own issues here than actually Nerdbank, but it's.
You're allowed to do so.
I see Nerdbank as an application of what I'm doing.
The nerds will not take a stake in it. And it's all talk about web of trust. That's a web of risk. And you cannot do this when you don't do a classical 19th century co-op. You use hot new technology to secure the whole thing, but basically it will never run when the participants won't take a stake, won't be at risk.
Well, it will never run. It will never run.
Of course, you can sell the whole thing to Deutsche Bank, and they will be gladly be of service, of course, at a price, and then you are just expanding them. Maybe fine as well,
but there are people making a fortune on this, and basically the real version 3.51 server spec 4 or something like that. It's every single time you see the same thing. It's like you talk to them, what are you doing? And it looks, it's every single time you see the same stuff. I mean, the transaction is a transaction is a transaction. There's no difference. It's always going to be sender, receiver, some amount, and a short statement what the transaction is used for. And we have at least 100 different implementations running in the current banking system right now. And the situation is getting worse because more people are pushing into the market.
Yeah, so it's getting better because you have more than 100 solutions for the same problem.
But
you know what that means. And no one is ever able to figure out what the hell is going on. Because there's too many different systems that do the same thing. Too many different banks that do the same thing, and all these banks have multiple systems that do the same thing. And it's really cool. And there's inside those organizations, there's people telling their bosses that they figure out what's going on. They have this new project and it's database mining and everything, and they all fail. And I'm part of this. I observed it from close by, and they never pull it off. And it just gets more complex.
Actually, I've seen some of the stuff I've seen is shelfware. It's like budget of a two-digit million number figure budget, and they just look at it and like, oh, I don't know how the marketing situation is going to be in 3 months, so I'm waiting till I know that. Goodbye. It's like, oh, we've been doing overtime the last half year to meet this deadline, and you're saying you don't know what you want to do with it? It's like, you paid for it? So.
But actually, it's a good thing that there's so many implementations.
But it's something cool.
Figure out someone finds a hole in this protocol.
The best thing you can do if you want to resist this is just invent a couple more alternatives and sell them.
Right.
I mean, if it fucks them up, I mean, you get really big numbers. It's way beyond strong crypto what's happening in the normal financial service.
Well, from the side of building actual applications, it's just slowing you down. It's extremely.
You want to be efficient.
I just want to do things that are fun. And figuring out how to read a COBOL data track out of a machine that stores 3 pieces of information that should be on other servers, and they have your complete information except for this tiny attribute you need, and if you know it's going to cost you 3 months just to know the zip code. No, what was it?
That's what's so cool about all these big institutions. With all of them, someone in the late 60s or early 70s decided how to do it. And then he quit. And no one else understands how this particular piece of data ended up in that particular place. But no one dares to move it because they have no way of figuring out what's going to happen when they do. So they're all paralyzed.
But
they're not threatening anything.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. I've seen the systems that they're going to put in within the next 2 years.
In Holland, there's a really big retail organization. They control like 40% of the Dutch retail market, and they are the 3rd biggest retailer in the world. They invented something 2 years ago, which they call the bonus card. It's a card you get. It has a barcode on it, and it identifies you as a customer. If you carry that card and you show it at the scanning cash register in every shop they have, you get specific discounts that people want, which means that every Dutch person has a card like that. Yeah? So all Dutch people agree to fill out a form stating their marital status and blah
Yeah, but it's integrated
You
to.
have this one multinational and it knows everything about all its clients.
Yes, so it's integrated to give some alternative.
People are selling their personal information for far less.
Iceland sold their complete
The
DNA.
funny thing is that they don't know how to do anything with it. They announced that they would, by last year's summer, they would start offering clients personalized discount offers. They still haven't done that because they don't know how to do it. They just get so much data and it's so chaotic that they have no way of figuring out what the right offer would be for each individual.
The way I see it, the problem is pointy head boss management.
Doesn't matter. I mean,
The second someone
here you
figures
have some
out,
clear software concepts. There you have the chaos of an international organization that just fucks up out of principle.
well,
So now we can
Sounds
add a
like
chaos
operating
of an open source system with many forks and many diverging development which happen.
It would be an even bigger mess.
Yes, everybody's invited to.
There already some kind of swapping card service, like keeping your card and
That's what that's a hobby of all Dutch people. They all say they
just to mess up like
Yes, a social card. Albert had a bonus card.
Yeah, also one.
Of course I have, but I carry it on my keychain.
Oh, I got you also.
I don't have my keychain here because I'm in Germany. I don't. My keys won't fit anything.
That's card is also swapped a dozen times for that.
There's 2.5% of Dutch people think it is interesting way of resistance to swap these cards. So the database miners can't figure out what the hell you are doing. They don't realize that 15% of the Dutch people are occasionally shopping for their neighbors. 20% of Dutch people have 3 cards in the household because they didn't realize that they would get multiple copies. So the people that do the shopping all get their own card with a different number. And a couple of other reasons why everything fucks up all the time. If you talk to a normal classical bank organization, and I do this because they pay me lots of money. I have 2 banks that are responsible for about 60% of my annual income. They don't know shit. They are really stupid. It's really hard to explain, and my job is to explain them what will work and what not will work, and these sense of decency in the process. But the main thing is that they are absolutely stupid. They are overconfident in themselves. For instance, when you ask a normal bank, how many of your clients do have bank accounts with other banks? They don't know. They just don't know. They think that if someone has a bank account with me, a Sparkasse blah blah blah, the Sparkasse blah 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 thinks that it's the primary bank account the customer has. It's not true. On average, people have 2 bank accounts. But those organizations are not able to understand this concept of an independent customer. So they think that they are in power and start interpreting their data on the basis of this assumption, which means that their interpretations are utter failures all the time.
So the question is.
There's another thing that is, which is basically organizational chaos and stupidity that protects us from all of the things we fear, far more than a Nerdbank. And if you start doing a Nerdbank, you will discover that the only way to do it is establish something stupid, namely an organization.
Let me try to get back on whatever the topic was. I mean, like, what was the main goal of Nerdbank? Is it the privacy issue? Is it just using open source software because that's cool? Or is it founding your own bank out of the nerd community, what would be a cool thing also?
Yeah, this is an interesting last remark.
Yeah, I think all 3 go together.
How we thought it was an interesting market why did you set bank license?
Because we don't have yet an institution for people who like to think about these things, who like not to be treated as say stupid, who do not want to be protected from the complexities open interfaces may offer. Do you know a bank which allows you to transact with it, say, by postscript, so you can...
I don't know a bank that will allow me to put in some postscripts into their system so that I can do some funny things with my bank account.
Yeah, so that's a real lack.
Yeah, that would be something, sure. Yeah, still trying to find out what the main goal is, because, I mean, if you're talking about privacy, this is the main concern. Trying to get some banks thinking about privacy issue would be some other way to achieve the same goal. If you just want everything under one roof, like an open source, community project, privacy, and a cool project, and something, then you have to go offshore and just found the bank, grab 10 million marks and go for it.
Yeah, anybody liking
the
to...
main problem would be not having client-server front-end stuff, but having the back-end stuff and having a link to like Swift or whatever is out there, which connects all the banks with each other. I think that would be the main point, getting in there, not having these client-server.
I think the client-server implementations are easiest to implement right from the beginning, so the thing can grow and become more complex.
And another question is do you want to put out your own money, like in Cybercash, like in Nerdbank, or do you just want to be a bank first and offer accounts first, then think about giving out money?
No, the current idea was that we do not give out that kind of accounts.
You don't give out accounts?
Yes.
Just money?
Credit bills. Payments.
Well, yeah, I don't care how you call it. Basically, it's money, right? It's something that somebody agrees on is worth something.
Yes.
So if you call it money, that's fine. If you call it debt, that's fine also, because somebody has to be there to verify and to guarantee something.
Yep.
To live in trust.
Yes, so to summarize, what we'd like to offer is bank which does money transfers and offers open interfaces, so everybody who likes can grow their own applications to use this. It is especially attractive to computer folks, but it also could be extended to a more general audience.
Sure. So the first step would be to find a country, the country that is the cheapest country to set up a bank in, right? And place somebody in there as server and then go for it.
Without something like that.
Sounds easy, right?
Well, like I said, I'm more interested in getting an applications infrastructure on top of this. The middleware for me is the most important thing I can work on right now because I have a very good understanding of it, and I see it as important because, like I said, writing an application is one thing, serving it with actual information that means something is another. And that if the control of the data source is not within acceptable, what's the word?
Bands.
there are many words that can fit in here. Well, basically, if I don't feel comfortable with how I get the data, then I have a problem. And money transactions is the most important thing going on the internet right now, because money enables so many other things to do.
Does actually anybody have experience in setting up banks in small countries? Offshore? This is a real question to the audience.
No. I don't have the experience setting up banks.
I think that one launched on your so there are some Germany some basic rules that apply with
Yeah.
stuff like that. And that's I think just throwing money at something that get into the political arena. Thinking like in central looks like that. People, all the other banks, networks, and having them to accept you as a part of these, that would be really difficult. Because that's not technology, that's not business case, that's just political power play.
Interesting question. Maybe we just cut down.
You probably have a big success if you just sell this to Deutsche Bank.
I just quit there.
Excuse me?
I just quit there.
It wasn't your work, it was theirs. But they are regularly losing interesting customers anyway, and they are not just doing the local thing.
They get rid of
The real
every.
money is in other areas of banking anyway. So if you do something, you offer a bank something that makes it more easy for them to just forget about those customers. They're probably interested. The problem is that they will fuck up you in the process. Like Dave Jones. He actually sold DigiCash to Deutsche Bank, and he went bust.
So maybe it's not the fun to repeat that experience.
But I think it's part of being no matter if it's your own bank or someone else's.
Yeah, it's an awkwardness.
It has this particular thing.
So the deal finally went through? The eCash deal finally went through? Where Deutsche Bank actually bought them now, or?
No, that's years ago that Deutsche Bank bought them. But they went bust. I mean, it's out of business.
Well, they still got the paper. It's a company, two people, and
No,
30
CEOs. Dave is still owning this basic concept. Yes. But the company is not.
Well, the technology is not gone. It's still there.
He's sitting on it. He's a kind of nice business guy.
What about these Deutsche Bank project on electronic money? They have this project you could
eCash?
apply for eCash.
Actually, yeah. Well,
Is it still
eCash
It's-
technology-wise always been very good. Like, it was really a protocol you looked at technically and said, yeah, I think I can put my money into that system. But the marketing was awful, and they only allowed their own customers to have it, and then it took a lot of.
No.
They opened it up later on.
Yeah.
After basically nobody wanted to use it because there was like 3 people taking eCash and 2,000 people having eCash, And so they open up, and as far as I can tell, there's got to be a major deal going on that some banks get enough market share and just say, let's agree on this and just open it up wide open and try to be.
What you could do is make a deal with German Telecom or some web space provider, and this web space provider will give possibility to charge, to have a charging mechanism for base customers. Like I don't only have like front-page interface for my web space to put in the content, but I also have a switch I can set on my pages.
Just like BTX used to be.